Hi there, my friend. Welcome to Mindfulness with Matt, where I talk about how to live mindfully for a happier and more peaceful life. Today, I wanted to share my experiences being a former fashion influencer. At my peak, I reached 100,000 audience on Instagram, but ultimately called it quits in September 2021. From the highs of the so many likes adrenaline to the lows of not enough likes abyss, I'm here to share it all. And of course, this isn't a mindfulness video without some lessons I've had to learn the hard way with content creation and social media and how that might apply to help you. And disclaimer, I was able to do this because of economic privileges. So to give you a little context about my background, I started my influencing days solely as a blogger in 2016 when content creators were still writing up blog entries with photos rather than shorter captions of TikToks, videos, and Reels. I was in New York in college, had a couple friends who were getting into that space already, and thought to myself, why not? I have an arts background, I know how to take photos pretty well, and I love fashion. Seems like the best of multiple worlds. So with the camera and the clothes that I already had, I started doing shoots with my other aspiring influencer friends and really just started posting. Initially, when I started, it was just mostly a men's outfit blog, but as I got honest with myself and explored the limits of what fashion expression meant, it gradually transformed into a genderless fashion blog that, from an outside perspective, was glam and fun and fabulous, and it worked. With genderless fluid fashion still not really represented much in the mainstream media, I was able to grow steadily and hit 100,000 followers in 2019 on Instagram, after 3 years of consistent posting, that is. And not going to lie, it felt great. I set myself the goal of 100,000 thinking I would never hit it, reached it, and felt really seen, and perhaps, dare I say, there was an even full-time opportunity with this. As you can imagine, things always come up when you think you're smooth sailing, and you better believe it. The overcast, the rains, and the storms came. When you're in social media, you're really at the mercy of the platforms you're on. Yes, I did create the content to my liking and to my taste, but Instagram was not partial to that. If you remember the outrage when Instagram changed its chronological feed order to its algorithm, then you can probably imagine some of the challenges for the creators. Every post became how likely is it the audience is going to engage with your content, because at the end of the day, Instagram needs to make money. And how do they make money? Have you spend more time on the app so you see more ads. So that meant to survive and grow as a content creator, I ultimately was at the mercy of the algorithm and many times just felt like I had to create content just to be seen and just to get the likes. And as someone in fashion, that oftentimes meant the more grand and exaggerated fashion reached a wider audience. So ultimately what started out as a passion project turned into this burden of keeping up with the platform, and ultimately this content monster alter ego. My shopping habits spiraled. I was constantly worried about whether my posts were going to get enough likes, and just had this sense of anxiety every time I opened up the app. It was like signing on to the school portal to see a report card every time, but in the form of likes. I couldn't see an end to it, wasn't really seeing the money return on time, and most of all was just losing a grip of my mental health. The only thing that was really helping me get through was the occasional post that outperformed my expectations, like that momentary high you get with any form of addiction people are suffering through. So one day in 2021, when I returned to New York after an extended trip home to be with family, I came home to a room full of packages of supposed content for the blog. I thought this would be an exhilarating experience doing an extensive Christmas unboxing, but it was not. Instead, with every package I was sifting through, the more disgusted I felt with myself. I was grossed out by how much materialism I let myself indulge in. I was grossed out by how much money I had spent, and I was just so grossed out with how much time I've allowed to pass between knowing when this was a problem and taking the time to actually fix it. And it was a very physical experience. With each package I was unboxing, I felt like this sense of mental puke accumulating, like I was actually going to throw up. The overconsumption consumed my whole body, and in a matter of a second, I felt like something just switched off, like something died. I couldn't quite pinpoint what died, but I knew something was weird, something was different. But I dismissed it and continued my disgusting haul reveal, mind you, only to myself. As the months went on, I came to discover that what I experienced was closest to what people described as an ego death, or in more spiritual terms, an awakening. The ego is that core sense of you-ness that's shaped through various experiences, societal values, and individualism you've accumulated over the years. It's what helps guide you through this world, helps you color things right or wrong, or better or worse. It wasn't a concept that I was familiar with because I was so deep into it, but reading forums and books helped me define that experience and gave me a better understanding of the moment I experienced while unboxing the packages. So with a more egoless approach to life, I was really starting to see life, people, and things as more equal, less black and white, and more for what they just were. And when I started having that perspective shift, it became really hard to create content. My creativity in some ways was dimmed because I was no longer projecting images of what I thought was good, and it became really difficult to create content just for the soul of likes and self-validation when I learned that the sense of self I was creating was just an illusion. Like, it was real, but I knew it wasn't the real me, and I didn't want to be defined by it anymore. So in Matt terms, if you want to achieve ego death, you don't need recreational substances. You just need to create a lot of content, buy a lot of clothes, and get disgusted with yourself. But in all seriousness, I knew I had to quit. So through a series of crying, and even more crying while journaling, I decided that it was time to let go. I knew that this influencing was no longer serving me and not going to help with the mental growth I wanted in terms of being a more down-to-earth and more mindful person. I knew that the path might have served its purpose when I needed it, but prolonging it will only cause more suffering for myself. So as hard as it was to discontinue it out of habit, I said goodbye to the glam and fab world of influencing and took time to relearn how to be a human being, like taking walks, not using my weekends to content create, and yes, even just lying down in my bed and just be. Since I've stopped influencing, it's been a long, winding path of healing and self-discovery, but worth every minute of my time. And now that I've bored you enough with my story, here are the 4 lessons that I wanted to share with you so you don't have to become an influencer just to learn. Lesson 1. Social status does not equal happiness. In our society as a whole, we often tend to equate someone's happiness with their worth, mostly derived from wealth, power, and fame. And whether we realize it or not, unconsciously, we think that the more followers someone has, the more famous they are, and therefore the happier they are. And this is, of course, all based off the external signs that we see, whether that be how many luxury goods they own or how often they get to travel. But let me tell you right now, all those goods and services are finite in terms of the joy they can bring. When I was influencing, I was considered more of a mid-tier level influencer, and through events and outreach, I've met plenty of more prominent influencers that seem to have it all on their Instagram feed, constant jet setting, and a plethora of cool things to do constantly. And yes, I've met some who are living the dream, enjoying their life like no other, but I've also met a bunch where through interactions I could tell they are really restless, and labeling their mental state as happy would be a bit of a stretch. Now, I'm not really one to judge others for how I perceive their happiness to be, but as someone who is also very observant, words and actions can be very telling of someone's inner states. And for example, if I'm having a conversation with you and you're only talking about yourself or complaining, the lack of presence is already telling. So even the supposed important influencers are still humans. No, they are not aliens. And no matter how flashy or glamorous their life may seem and how famous they are on social media, the way they choose to portray themselves has no correlation with their life satisfaction. So whether you're considering going down the social media path or even just catch yourself, envying those who seem to have it more, remind yourself that possessions and social status are not correlated with happiness, and that instead what we seek at the end of the day is derived from within. Lesson number 2. Social media presence detracts from everyday presence. Now, this may seem like an obvious one, but with social media so ingrained in our day-to-day lives, it's an important reminder to keep hounding on. When I was posting on Instagram 2 to 3 times a week, all I could think about was what was next for content. Because social media platforms generally reward those who are more active, it actually became a chase of cracking out content on the weekly. And that naturally translated into me living in my own head, ideating, and always planning for what's next to shoot. A prime example would be traveling. When you plan for a trip, do you plan for what you want to see, or rather where you want to take pictures? And I think for a fair share of us, you don't even need to be an influencer to have the latter be a big part of your answer. So every time I went on a trip, I would meticulously plan the location I wanted a photo to capture my editorial vision and pack outfits that I would barely wear into my suitcase to meet the content needs. And that doesn't stop there. When I actually get to the location of the shoot, the stress is on. Rather than enjoying a new landscape and relishing the new experience, I'm stressed out on the spot, shooting and reshooting, and making sure that the photo is up to the standards I imagined. And it just spiraled this cycle of stress that made me forget how beautiful of an environment I might be in. Now, towards the last year of my blogging, I was definitely more intentional in limiting my time in taking photos and doing hard stops so I can enjoy myself more. But a pressure for a picture-perfect shot was nevertheless still there. And it doesn't even have to be the most grand experiences either. When hanging out with my friends, I would constantly be checking my phone to check how my posts were doing, how many people saw my stories, that I forgot the very presence of my friends around me. And you see it all the time now, with family dinners resulting in individuals with their heads down, or groups of friends standing around but all on their phones. From this lesson, I've learned that pay attention to the people around you and the environment around you will make you more grounded and present. Don't let the digital life, which is not real, detract from the very life that is right in front of you. Your memes can wait. Check them out later, even if it just means listening to your friend rant about their day. Life is short. Appreciate the trees. Appreciate the stupid jokes your friends make, and appreciate the boredom you get while lying on your bed. Lesson number 3. Influencing is just another job. There's very much this impression that influencers just have fun and get to do all the cool stuff. Yes, they get to, but at the end of the day, their survival also depends on it, making it just another job. There's this common narrative nowadays that if you do what you love, then it won't feel like a job. What I've learned while influencing is that sometimes when passion turns into a job, that passion doesn't ignite the same way. In some ways, it becomes a liability and a burden to keep up with since your livelihood depends on it. You still need to pay rent and bills, and that source and burden now is the very same thing that you enter thinking you would derive joy and purpose from. And with any job, influencers are also prone to burnout. When you have to think about creating content 24/7, the pressure is endless, and in that sense, the work-life balance is almost non-existent. Cute wall corner? Gotta take a pic. Cute brunch spot? Gotta take a pic. To meet the demands of the consumer now, whose attention span is only getting shorter, the things you could do for your influencing career is endless. Did photos? Well, now there's video. Did the captions? Well, there's now more emails to come through. It's a very all-encompassing job that does take a lot of maintenance, and what influencers present on their platform is only a small fraction of their day-to-day. If anything, they spend most time behind the screen, just like any office worker, editing photos and videos and responding to emails. But of course, while it is another job, people don't always take them kindly either. When our society prizes certain professions over others and somehow are entitled to their opinions, there's a common degrading attitude that goes on when viewing influencer, that they're frivolous, that they're not working, and dumbing down society. I personally haven't received any comments like those, but hear it all the time when people speak about their sentiments. Although there may be some truth to that, it's equally important to recognize that it's just another profession, another job, and all the supposed glamour that goes with it is also subject to boring routines and even public criticism. So again, when you find yourself either envying or want to criticize influencers, remember it's just another human or team at the other side of the screen doing their job. Labor that might seem easier, but in reality is just as laborious. Lesson number 4, use social media to your advantage, not let it use you. This is the most important one that is applicable for all of us. In Western societies, we tend to think that we are in control and that we do what we wish. But when social media platforms are designed with profit as the end result, they will learn and evolve to control what we think of as our free will to use the technology. And in that sense, when we don't actively monitor or question why we use social media, it easily uses us, jokes on us. So take some time to monitor what it is that you're doing there and why you do it. Be intentional. Are you trying to impress your friends? Are you trying to stay connected with them? Or are you simply on it because you're just bored? Some beautiful things with social media is the ability to connect with friends and family who perhaps live far away, or you even meet others who you wouldn't have otherwise. The human emotion aspect, if you know what I mean. Maybe that's in the form of a life update, so people you care about stay abreast of your dog turning 1, or meeting a like-minded individual who is on the opposite side of the world and also loves that only one particular breed of cat. I can say that despite all the anxieties and stresses that came with influencing, I have met some people who were so passionate and creative and so nice that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and still keep in touch till this day. When you use the platform to your advantage, you'll reap the rewards, but if not, you'll find yourself wanting to impress others, numbing your brain, or trapped in some endless comparison cycle with others. I certainly fed into it, constantly comparing myself with other influencers, what brand deals they got over me, and where they got to go, and it didn't feel great. But when I was focused on sharing creativity that was true to me and fostering those friendships and partnerships, I learned a ton and will be forever grateful for those lessons. So use it, don't let it use you. Delete it or take a break from it if you have to. Limit your app time. It all comes down to you, not what the social platforms have designed and put in front of you. I hope you have enjoyed this video, learned something about influencers, and more importantly, what you can do to take care of yourself. Let me know what you think of my story and if you have any lessons yourself. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Till next time.